Now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and I've been talking about this a little bit during the show. We have decided to start a new little program, and I decided I need to give it a cool little name and maybe a sound effect. But every week I decided that I was going to share some learning with you and give away a book. And so this week we're giving away the book, The Resonance Key by Marie Jones and Larry Flaxman. And we had our good friend Larry Flaxman on the show just a few weeks ago talking about this book. And so what we're going to do is at the bottom of the hour, when we come back from the commercial break, I'm going to ask a question. And you can go to www.justenergyradio.com and drop us a quick note with the answer to the question. The person that provides us with the correct answer first will get a copy of the book, and it will be the winner will be announced when we start the show next week. So I'm not going to tell you the question right now. You're going to have to wait till the next break to find out the question. But now we're going to be talking about the ghosts of Galveston, and I'm hoping our electronics is working. I see the phone number up there. But to do that, we're going to be talking with Dash Beardsley. And before I bring him on the air, and he probably can hear me talking about him bad this way, but I have to tell you, I met Dash at the Texas Ghost Show a few weeks ago, and one, he's a very cool guy. But we went to sit down, and they had a big VIP dinner, and they pointed me to a table, and there were some of the other presenters sitting there, and there was this, like, rock and roll guy, and I was like, well, is he like the general public? You know, is he like some famous rock and roll star that I don't even know who he is? But they just stuck him at our table. I didn't know. But it turned out it was Dash. And I think we have become fast friends, and I have him on the show because we're going to talk about the ghosts of Galveston. So let me just tell you a little bit about Dash, and we're going to get him on the air. Dash Beardsley has made a lifetime of exploring this formidable barrier island with all of its hidden secrets. Dash relentlessly researched Galveston's history, developing deep into its past, uncovering many secrets along the way. Many have tried and failed, but few prevail as long and steadfast as Dash Beardsley in this endeavor. Legends and many periodicals have their own name for him, the Ghost Man of Galveston. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, the Ghost Man himself, Dash Beardsley. Hey, Dash, how you doing?
Wow, what an intro. I hope I can live up to all this, but yeah, I'm all right. How are you today?
I'm great. It's true. We sat down at the table, and I sat next to you, and I was like, well, he could be like a famous rock star, but I don't really know what anybody looks like or what their names would possibly be, which is usually the bigger part, you know, but you should be a rock star. You could be. You are, because guitar. You're a musician, too.
Yeah. Well, I do play guitar. I do write songs, and, you know, I write a few mystic songs, and I write pop songs, and I write other kinds of songs. But, you know, music is about half of what I've done. But also, you know, I've been in this ghost thing most of my life, and actually the biggest part of it, I was really afraid to talk about it, you know. So it's been just
what
started
kind of you that way? What started you in the ghost business in the first place? I mean, it's not the thing that most people pick up.
Right. Well, way before it was very popular or anything. I lived in a place, you know, a fairly haunted area. It wasn't Galveston. I grew up in the Heights in Houston, and over in the Heights there, where I grew up in the house I was in, it was a pretty spooky place, a pretty spooky area, a pretty spooky time, actually. I think years ago as a child I had some sort of psychic event that caused me to regress, you know, go backward and not want to see any of that. So I did my very best to block it out for years. You know, anything I would see psychically or any kind of anything much that had to do with ghosts or anything like that, I figured was from the dark side, from the bad side, and so I left it alone until later on when I began to really understand a little more about what it's about. Now, I'm not saying there aren't, dark hauntings and dark things that go on. There certainly are. We're in this world with a lot of different kinds of spirits roaming around. So, you have to be careful as to what you're doing. But anyway, it started a long time ago, and my grandfather was an accountant for Gulf Oil for 47 years. He had a home down on the coastline, and basically took me down there a long time ago. And I learned folklore stories, ghost stories, things like that from him, which for some reason I always felt a magnetic, even as a small child, felt a magnetic draw toward that place. I don't know where it came from, really. I can't completely explain it. But all I knew is after years of going down there, that I began to understand in the 90s really what it was all about. I never planned on having a ghost tour. I never planned on being a tour guide or anything like that, or owning a ghost tour or any of that. It was just simply an outlet, once I learned, for me to talk about it. So that's how it came to be. Does that make any sense?
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. So that's really
one of the things
really,
that I. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So that's just really how it went down. In 1994, I really started intensely studying it just for myself. Not for a tour, just to know it. And then in '98, I had learned a lot about it, and I wanted to know a little more. I went to look for the spirit of Betty Brown. She was a socialite that lived. Her main years were really the early 1900s. She went through the 1900 storm. She was very, very classy lady. Had a lot of boyfriends. Never got married. Smoked cigars. Was a rule breaker, so I liked her already. I went down there and I got out my ghost equipment. I was going to find her, So I looked, but I pretty much got ignored. So no pictures, nothing like that. But that was really the start of the tour as we know it today. That's when I started finding out more answers as to why things began to connect to history. See. So.
Okay, and we're going to come back to that topic because I don't know a lot about Galveston, but by the time this show is over, we're going to know all kinds of ghosty things about Galveston. I want to ask you this, the name, the Ghost Man of Galveston, except I have to tell you, when I have told a couple of friends that I was having you on the show, I'm like, well, he's the ghost guy of Galveston. It's like, oops. But why did they call you, or how did you get the name, the Ghost Man of Galveston?
Well, that happened because some goofy little newspaper wrote it, and then people just started, I guess they read this article. It was just down there in the Galveston area. I guess people read the article, and I was very quickly becoming I hate to use the word authority, but I was getting to be the guy that really knew most of the answers about these things and about the history of Galveston. So it just was kind of hung on me, I guess, and people started calling me that, and then pretty soon it more or less became my name. Not Dash, more the Ghost Man of Galveston, and then later on, Dash, is my name, but, the Ghost Man thing was sort of just landed there from this paper, from this one newspaper ad. And they named me that. I didn't name myself that anyway. So.
But it's kind of cool. You get to be a persona even when you don't even know it.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I feel like this whole thing just evolved on its own. This whole, part of me that is a part of me, but it just became what it is. When I first began the ghost tour, I thought, well, I'll, have to tone it down and, tie my hair back and wear more conservative clothes. And I tried it for about 2 weeks, and I went, nope. I'm going to be what I am. And from the minute I changed that, I guess it was a little longer than 2 weeks, but from the minute I changed that, things changed all the way around. I began to be more sincere about who I was and, all that. And it just kind of the doors opened before me, and I stepped into them. So.
And for the listeners who haven't seen your picture, all right, this is like a girl description. Okay, he's tall and blonde, wears sunglasses, wore these kind of, I won't say really tight black leather pants, but working on it, long black coat, rings on all of his fingers. I mean, like I said, I sat next to him. I thought he was, some Aerosmith kind of rock star guy.
Those all mean something, right?
Well, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I just,
The sunglasses actually started because I started having really serious migraine headaches in 1993, and I could not handle light very much. And I mean, these were ongoing, and so I started, I was pretty sick for a while until I learned what to do to overcome them. And so I wore sunglasses for a long time, and then playing on stage, I couldn't stand the lights. So that's where the glasses came from. And I still have problems with that occasionally, but not as often. And the rings and all that, those are, each one of them has a personal meaning. Some of them are the sea, some of them are Indian references, the Great Spirit, and who some of us believe was Jesus, But anyway, so each ring and each thing means a little something to me personally. And I always had a fascination for superheroes, So, I always liked Batman and Superman and all those guys. I was the first kid in my neighborhood to make a little group of superheroes. So, we were running around in sheets that we borrowed from our moms and cut up and made capes out of and that kind of thing. So that's how it all came to be anyway.
Cool.
People need something to believe in, They're tired of church. They're tired of this or that. And I'm not saying believe in ghosts. I'm not even saying believe in me. I'm only saying that people need something to believe in. And that's what they're looking for. And I think it's all within them. And I think sometimes people get a little bit of that on my tour, something to believe in.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, let's turn our attention to Galveston. Okay, I will admit, even though I live in Texas, I have not been to Galveston. But thinking-wise, Galveston is, I said an island. Someone said, no, it's a sandbar. Like, okay, whatever. But it's an island, off the coast of southern Texas. And it just seems like it should just be a very quiet and serene place. Not too many ghosts hanging around. And so I guess my question to you is, does Galveston have like a shaded history, kind of like New Orleans or something?
Yes. Galveston's had more than its fair share of death, and we all know from shows like Ghost Hunters, Ghostology, all the books we've read, they're all around for unfinished business. So you might say Galveston has had more of its share of that kind of ghosts, Started a long time ago, back with the Karankawan Indians. They were the very first people, the Native Americans, the very first people on Galveston Island. And they were cannibals, and they were also, had some pretty vicious, ugly sacrifices. They would take a person, tie him to a tree, and begin a bonfire, start to dance around the fire, walk over, cut off pieces of their body, put it on the end of the knife while they're still alive, cook them, and then eat them. And they thought that they were not permitting them to enter the third level of life, the afterlife. So this was their way of taking their energy, their spirit, everything they were about. And so that's a pretty gruesome start right there. And that was the first. Did you want to say? Rita?
No, I'm just
Oh,
captive
okay.
here. It's like,
okay.
Cannibalism. I'm like, okay, wouldn't have even this.
That's the way it all
Tasty.
began. Yeah.
It's like barbecue, early barbecue.
Yeah, that's what I call it on my tour, a Karankawan Indian barbecue. Anyway, that's the way it started, and then we roll around to the there was really 100 years from about 1800 to 1900 that was really what I call the setting of the stage for the great crescendo that was going to end in 1900. And that was, there was the Civil War. Before that, there was Jean Lafitte. The very first township in Galveston was built by Jean Lafitte. So you could say the entire place was built on pirates in the beginning. After living there for a while, I still thought the place might still be built on pirates. I wasn't sure. But, no, actually I got a lot of cooperation, a lot of help from those people. But, occasionally when you're doing this kind of business, you do get doors slammed in your face, Ghost, what? So, and that's they were not too open when I began this, but now most everyone's been very cool about it. Anyway, so Jean Lafitte built a place called Maison Rouge, which today is still, the remains of it are still at 14th and Harborside. If anybody's listening and they're in Galveston, you can still go see that. And right there was where he built this 3-story high. It was a sort of a fortress/home, and right at that point, if you come into Galveston, you'll see Harborside Street. Well, the street was not named after the Harborside because it is near it, but because it actually was the edge of the water at one time, and later they added a landfill. Well, when Jean Lafitte was there, he basically took over, beat the Indians, and then took over everything. And for 3 whole years, he ruled and had a pretty good life there until the Navy/Secret Service caught up to him, and they basically asked him to leave.
Had him for dinner?
No, that was the Karankawoans. They tried to have him for dinner, but some of Jean Lafitte's men were actually rumored to be cannibals. We don't know if it was true or not, but I guess if you're way out there in the ocean, some people will try anything for dessert. But the thing is, he basically ran things until killing people, that sort of thing. He was a brute in a lot of ways. And then in late 1821, that is when it all ended. But as he left Galveston, he set every building that he could on fire. So there was this gigantic blaze going on, people dying in the blaze, and not everybody escaped, And then, so that was really the end of Jean Lafitte. No one knows too much what happened to Lafitte after that. A lot of history goes this way and that, but nobody really knows. In 1861, the Civil War, the Great Battle of Galveston in 1863. What a story. Have you ever heard this story, Rita?
No. I mean, this is all fascinating. And let me, before you go into that story, I have a question timeline-wise. So the Spanish didn't go in there? When they came and kind of took over the whole Texas and Mexico thing? No Spanish?
That was it. Are you talking about 1528, years ago?
I don't know.
Yeah, way back there. They actually got there and discovered the place, but they didn't hang around too long. Really, the Karankawoans were the very first, actually, to be at least the first notable people that were there, put it that way. So.
Okay. So not like any big Spanish settlements or cities or anything like that?
No, not particularly in Galveston, mainly Indians. Now, people passed through. A lot of people, actually, several people were on friendly terms. It's interesting. I have a home up in East Texas as well as Galveston, and it's interesting. In Nacogdoches, which is 20 miles away, it's almost a sister city to Galveston, because many people that had dealings with the Karankawoans came here. This is where we're talking from right now. But they came there and actually built Nacogdoches. Really, Nac was built first, and then Galveston was actually built second. But they always were having dealings with each other and you ask about it being a barrier island. I think because of its location, its location had a lot to do with why so many people landed there. there used to be along Harborside many, many piers where people would come in, especially in the 1800s. And people from all over the world would come in through Galveston Island and cross over. There was an old wooden causeway years ago. There was also a ferry years ago. But anyway, getting back to I could go on and on, believe me. Getting back to
you were talking about like the Civil War, getting to the Civil War part.
Yes. Okay, the Battle of Galveston. Listen to this. A lot of people don't know this, but Galveston has almost its very own Alamo story, and you might say, in a sense, General Magruder was the main Confederate Civil War general. He was around and actually in Houston when the Union had taken over the island, and basically he decided he was going to get it back, but they had taken it from the South basically. And what he did was he had no warship. The Union had 6 warships, and so he got a couple of just regular steamers, just that went down the way. I don't know if you've been to Houston, but Harrisburg, there's a lot of canals and things down that way that connect with Galveston Bay. Anyway, he got these 2 steamers, and he created what they called in those days cotton-clads, which meant that they would take bales of cotton and actually stack them against the side to raise them up to protect them from gunfire. And so that was what you would do if you had nothing else to work with, basically. But he decided, this very brave general decided he was going to get the island back. So what he did was he took 2 steamers, 2 cotton-clads, and he came up in the west end of Galveston Bay. And he spotted, or actually had a little skirmish with a couple of the warships, and they sank one of them, the Bayou City. And the Neptune was actually, this is the 2 steamers I was talking about. The Neptune was still afloat. It was wounded, but he picked out the biggest warship he could see, called the Harriet Lane, and he gave it full throttle all the way right into the side of the Harriet Lane, hit the ship so hard that he tilted it over, which made the soldiers and everything roll toward them. All the Confederate soldiers attacked and took over the Harriet Lane, and the rest of the warships headed out for open sea, and Magruder took the island.
So that was like a suicide steamer?
Pretty much, yeah. And he won the fight, and of course, he sent, no offense to anyone that's from the north out there, but you know.
And so this was part of the Civil War. It wasn't a Civil War for Galveston Island.
No, this was the big Civil War. Yeah, this was the Great Battle of Galveston, and that actually from that time on, the South kept the island and never lost it again. And, the war ended and everything changed. Then we roll around to many storms have hit Galveston Island. 5 major storms hit well before the Great Storm of 1900, and that's a subject also itself, which I'll get to in a little while. But anytime a storm hits an island that was actually at that time lower, it's going to cause a lot of death, especially they had no seawall or no real protection, and so many were killed well before then. The Great Storm is actually what happened to cause people to build a seawall. Have you been there before?
No, I have. I mean, the furthest south I've been, I guess, would be somewhere between Houston and wherever the coast is. But no, I have never been to Galveston. And actually, I had planned a trip to Galveston, and then the hurricane or whatever happened and kind of took it out. And no, haven't made it.
They're bringing it back. It's coming back very quickly. Thank God we had the seawall. It even though a lot of damage was done, still the seawall saved us. Actually, Galveston, after the Great Storm, was raised about 13 to 17 feet in some places. I don't know if you know anything about that, but that's Let me tell you.
Actually, I think I saw something about that on Discovery Channel where they were like taking mud and they just covered the streets with like stuff they dredged from the ocean and it stank and yeah, I saw that on TV.
Well, they didn't. They did it.
I didn't ever connect that.
Yeah, they raised it many ways. That was one way, yes. But they actually lifted up parts of buildings and things like that, and actually pushed the dirt underneath and that sort of thing. But they did a very good job, and because of it, the worst storm we've had probably in the last 100 years, I would say, is probably Hurricane Ike. But anyway, where do you want me to go from here? You want me to tell you about the Great Storm, or?
Yeah, I mean, we have about 2 or 3 minutes before we go to break, so why don't we kind of talk about, finish up the history, and then we'll kind of switch gears after the break and talk more about the ghosts. Ghosts of spooky people. Yeah. Right. I mean, because I think the history really sets up the ghostesses. So let's finish up on the history and go from there.
Okay. 25 years, 1875, 25 years of random, mysterious fires, actually, that burned and caused many, many deaths. In 1885, there was a fire that took out many buildings in 4 blocks, and we called it the 4-block fire of 1885. And then the Great Storm rolled around in 1900. There is something I wanted to tell you a little bit about in a minute when we get to the ghosts, and that was about the face, but that's going to take too long probably before your commercial break. So,
yeah.
Are you going to do any call-ins?
No? If you want, we can open up the phone lines. I mean, sure. I don't usually get a whole lot of calls, but, we can announce it when we come back from break.
Okay,
and actually, it's just about, I'm good either way.
Yeah,
the music's going to come up. So when we come back from break, we're going to kind of shift gears from talking about the history of Galveston, which I'm just kind of shocked because it has so much history, and start talking about ghostesses, which is always the fun part, about Galveston. So I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and we're here talking to Dash Beardsley about the ghosts of Galveston, and his webpage is ghosttoursofgalvestonisland.com. That's ghosttoursofgalvestonisland.com. When we come back, I'm going to ask the question again and take your call. Back after these messages.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.
Crossroads in your life and discover alternative solutions to your deepest concerns at soulhealer.com. So whether it's a physical problem, an emotional issue, a question about work, or troubles in your relationships, naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise can help you. Bring peace, harmony, and health back into your life. Schedule a session today. Visit soulhealer.com right away and live the life you've been dreaming of.
Hi, I'm James Altayanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. Listen to Dr. Rita's Soul Healer Moment live each third Sunday night of the month on Feet to the Fire. www.feet2fire.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rita Louise, the host of Just Energy Radio and the founder of the Institute of Applied Energetics. Start a new career today on the leading edge of alternative health and healing. The Institute of Applied Energetics can help you develop the specialized skills you need to work as an energy medicine practitioner, intuitive counselor, or professional medical intuitive. Besides our outstanding technical instruction, our programs also support you in creating and building a successful business in this rapidly growing field. Be a catalyst for changing the way healthcare is done around the world. Contact the Institute of Applied Energetics right away or visit appliedenergeticsinstitute.com.
How would you like to live long and enjoy great health? How about creating solid bones and whiter teeth? Strengthen your heart and eyes and have radiant, youthful-looking skin? There is an ancient health and longevity secret that has been used for millennia in Egypt, India, and China that can help you achieve this. For the first time in the modern world, Pearlsium brings this ancient wellness secret to you. For more information about Pearlsium, visit www.productsforthesoul.com.
And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and we're coming back, and I'm going to ask the question of the day, the question of the show, and the winner, the person who has the first correct answer, will win a copy of The Resonance Key by Marie Jones and Larry Flaxman. If you know the answer to the question, if you think you know the answer to the question, if you think you maybe know the answer to the question, go to www.justenergyradio.com and drop us a note. While you're there, check out the over 3 years' worth of archives. So, Dash, this question I came up with just for you. So and don't answer because I know you know the answer. What kind of a haunting are you experiencing if you see a ghost appear as if it is in a loop, like a piece of film that keeps repeating itself over and over again? So if you know the answer to that question, go to www.justenergyradio.com and drop us a note. The person with the first correct answer will win a copy of The Resonance Key. Cool.
That's called a repeat performance, right? No.
It's
yeah,
that's it. I'm waiting for all those people to, yeah. Well, that's a good one. I like that.
It's called an encore. So.
It's an encore.
Yeah. You know where the term
I would love,
You know where the term
I would love for you to
Okay,
well, we
ahead.
just keep talking right at the same time.
Okay, go ahead. You first. Go ahead.
Okay. I would love for you to share a couple of stories of some of the, I'm going to say, more famous hauntings, and these can be from legend because I am going to ask, have you experienced anything personally? So if you want to tell legend haunting and then your own personal experience, after, I'll come back with that. That would be really cool because I'm sure there's all kinds of, with a civil war, with the Indians eating each other, with the storms. I'm sure there's, have been reports and sightings from people.
Lots of reports, lots of sightings on many parts of the island, and also just some downright strange stories. I was going to tell you a little about the face. That is a very unusual story.
Okay.
You can go to my website if you wish, and I believe it is there in the pictures section, and you can see, a couple of pictures of the face right there. But
and that would be ghosttoursofgalvestonisland.com?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
The face is basically this building was constructed in 1972 where the space sits today. Now, there are 2 or 3 different stories about this building and this ongoing face that people have looked at. It's a very detailed face. If you go look at the picture, you can actually see, if you look to the left, and especially if you're standing near it, you can see details such as you can see one of the eyeballs in this thing, and what looks to be maybe a beard or perhaps a darkened portion of the skin. And this is on a square portion of the wall. I don't know if you remember the way they would construct walls. They would actually build them on the ground, put pour the concrete there, and then put gravel on top, and then lift it up with a crane and put it in place. Well, this happened on, legend has it at least that it happened on 3 of those, one on top of the other. So as they tried to get rid of the space, it kept coming back. So the stories behind it are, one says that some people think it's the face of Jean Lafitte because it is very near his old home there called Maison Rouge. It almost looks as if the face is looking toward the harbor or could possibly be looking in that direction. The other story is that before the building was there, a ship captain had lost himself to his drinking problem, and he lived there on the land, just built a shanty with all of his, trophies, things he'd won in his life, pictures of his children, all that kind of thing, and basically could not lose his alcohol problem. So when someone bought the land there, when they asked him to leave, he refused, and so they took a bulldozer and really bulldozed all of his stuff, his shanty, everything into the water there. And he died about 3 months later of alcohol poisoning. So some believe that is his face as some sort of revenge from the past. And the third story, this is the one I believe, an old man, and in this story I do know the name of the people in it, but I don't say it because many of those people, their descendants and things are still alive, so I don't want to, bring up something that would in any way embarrass them or hurt their feelings or something. So I don't talk too much about names. But an old man owned the land there. He was elderly. He was very rich, very well off. His kids basically ran things for him, and they were approached by a certain hospital and decided to go ahead and go through with the deal without telling the old man about it. Well, when he found out, he did not want to sell the land there. And so they said, basically, we're going to go ahead and do this anyway. And he said, if you do, I promise I'll curse the land. I'll make life miserable for you, whoever gets it. And they didn't listen, sold the land. As the building was being constructed in 1972, the old man passed away. And that's when a face appeared on the side of the building. Now, if you can see in the picture, do you have it there, Rita?
I have the pictures page up, but there were multiple pictures, and I wasn't sure which one.
I believe it's there, and you can see a fence, with a car. It looks like the edge of a car or something like that. But it should be there. But if you look and you notice, you'll see the face, and then you'll look up, you'll see one square that looks kind of smooth, and then above that, you'll see a darker square. I'm talking about these concrete squares called tilt walls. They were back then. Anyway, basically, the first face appeared. They didn't like it, so the story goes that they painted over it. The second face appeared. People stared at that one until about 1992, when two student nurses went back there, and their car, they had it parked, this Honda Accord they had parked on a boat launching ramp so that the front of their car aimed up toward the face. And somehow their car went out of gear, or the emergency brake went off. It rolled back into the water. One of the girls was drowned there, so they roped things off, did not allow anyone back there, and the owner decided he was going to get rid of it. So he hired a sandblasting crew. They went back there, and, this job should have taken no more than one day probably, but they were plagued, the story goes at least, that they were plagued with so many strange, weird accidents that they actually, all the workers quit on the spot and ran away from the job and left the owner of the company to finish it, which he did, and the story goes that he actually finished it 3 weeks after that. Finally got it done. He had lost money and lost equipment. It was a completely bad job. So the face was gone until a little while later when the next face appeared, and that is the one you see there in the picture. So. And
it's the same face pretty much over and over again?
Well, they say some say it's identical, others say it's very similar. So could be.
That's kind of creepy.
It is. So that's the first story. There's a room in the Galvez Hotel, room 500. And the story goes there that a couple had just gotten married. He had gone in, carried her over the threshold, and then he got called away quickly to see and went out to see, and she falsely was given a note that said he'd been killed, but he hadn't been. So she took her own life by going to the top of the Galvez and hanging herself from the turret. And he came back, and one story says that he came back and killed himself in this room, and the other story says that he lived the rest of his life, so I don't know which one's true, but they say that it's very hard to stay there, or at least you'll have some kind of haunted experience in the room. That seems to be the most popular room where paranormal investigators like to stay. I've known a few that stayed in there, and they got some strange things happening to them. People say they have sighted her. People say they have even sighted him there. So now I found I had a very weird experience one Friday night. You know, it's funny when you're not looking for spirits that they'll find you, you know. Mm-hmm. So I get out of a restaurant. At that time I had a date, and I was I and a friend of mine. I don't want to name. It's someone that's in politics, and their partner were there. And as we're standing there, just walking out, deciding where we're going to go, we decide, you know, we're standing on the street corner, kind of halfway talking and looking around. And I don't know how to explain this, but I could feel this. You know how you can feel someone staring at you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, down the way, you could feel this guy staring. And as he walked toward me, I looked closer and I went, wow, that guy looks like he walked right out of the 40s, you know. And we were all, you know, we didn't want to be obvious and look at this guy, but he looked like a gangster. And, you know, in the 40s, Galveston was run, you know, a good bit at least it was greatly influenced, we'll put it that way, by the mafia and that sort of thing. So as he walked right in front of us, basically, and we turned away for a second and turned around to look, and he was gone, just like that, just in a split second. And all four of us saw this. Mind you, these are not people that are ghost hunters or looking for spirits or anything like that. These are people that absolutely believe in things that they see. They just, you know, they like me because I keep life interesting for them. So, but basically, there have been many things like that. I think everyone that's lived in Galveston for any period of time has had some sort of ghostly experience. I believe Galveston, because of all the death and things that have happened there, that if you were to walk any square, any, you know, street block and knock on doors, that you would find at least one ghost story there, if not more, on each street. The thing is, for people to open up and talk about this, you need one voice to start it, and it seems like that's been me. You know, many have not. Were very afraid, and now that I'm doing this, a lot of people have come forward and said this or that has happened in their homes. There in front, getting back to the story about the Galvez, I forgot to say this a while ago. There were people that actually say they have seen the bride actually walk in there on the beach in the middle of the night. Many people. Now, I don't know if they've had a lot of margaritas or I don't know, man, but that's what they say. That's been going on for years and years and years. So
there was, you know, speaking of that storm, I mean, it made me think of that whole show that I saw on TV. Mm-hmm. But when the storm happened, one of the things they had talked about was like an orphanage that, you know, was run by nuns, and basically they all ended up dying, and they found them buried like in the sand, and tragic story. Have there been any sightings of children, or of the nuns walking around, or anything like that?
Well, that is I believe it's St. Mary's Orphanage, and that's where Walmart is today. So I used to go in there in the middle of the night. I'm a nighttime shopper much of the time. I used to go in there in the middle of the night and basically see people that worked in the toy section. The first thing when they found out who I was, they said, we can't keep these toys on the shelf. We hear kids over there playing and all kinds of things, and this goes on every night. So you can go in Walmart and ask them, but and you can also read about it. It's around different places online. I've seen it, but many of the people that work there in that area say that they have seen and felt children. Actually, the nuns tied themselves to kids, and back then, we didn't understand the life support system and all that, so they were just doing the best they knew to do. So they tied themselves to the children, and that's one of the reasons why they all drowned. Actually, one child got loose, escaped, climbed to the top of a tree, and he lived up until the 80s. So he lived a good long life, but he was the only one. And it was 12 nuns, by the way.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that must be kind of fun, going into Walmart, doing some ghost hunting in the toy department.
Yeah. Well, I like nighttime shopping anyway, I'm a night guy. I like nighttime shopping, and it's more fun to shop when you got kids loading the cart for you. No, I'm kidding. That didn't happen. Okay. Don't quote me on that. Oh.
Any reports, the story about the Indian cannibalism part, any reports of barbecues going on anywhere, or of Indian sightings anywhere?
No, I've not, I can't say that's one that's kind of passed me by. There have been all kinds of strange reports of ghosts. There's one yard where they say, this might be folklore, but they say every so often you can hear, especially if there's a storm, you can hear people. There were people outside that tied themselves to a fence. And they say that, especially when a storm hits, that you can actually hear the screams of these people because they could not get loose, basically. Once they would tie themselves to something, then they would be bombarded by things. By the way, if any of you are ever in a storm, don't do that.
Don't try this at home, right?
Yeah, don't tie yourself to a fence, okay? In fact, don't tie yourself to anything. Just grab something that floats and hold on for dear life. Prayer, and hope you go the right direction. But anyway, so there have been many stories like that, those kind of stories. There have been, every house almost has had some kind of ghost stories, particularly from, I don't say every house, but many houses. I always hear stories of people saying they see people from the Victorian era. So I think that is due to the Great Storm. The Luigi's there is another very haunted place. That's a Italian restaurant now, but actually it was a home for the Red Cross. And I guess, I'm not sure exactly the height of the building, but it's got 3 stories. And the story goes there that when the winds had slowed, that a school marm actually stepped out on the ledge there and grabbed people floating by. She put the sick inside in one part of the room, the dead she put in the other part, and basically tried to nurse these people for a good long time, about 3 months, and then she herself died in the building. Many people have seen her. For years, they've seen her since 1900. I knew some people that worked about 3 doors down from Luigi's, and one evening, 5 women, it's Thursday, I believe, and they just get off work, and, the Strand's pretty empty. The Strand, by the way, is basically where our tour is, that area of Galveston. Anyway, they're walking down, and they're actually just going by Luigi's, and they look, and right there on the steps, all 5 of them called and told me this story. But all 5 of them were amazed because they all said they saw the school mom standing there on the bottom row of steps, standing looking, they described what she looked like. They also said she appeared to have a very sad look on her face. I think a lot of people that went through that went through a very hard time. Remember, the Great Storm for Galveston was kind of what 9/11 is for America. It ruined their economy, turned them from a trade port city into more of a tourist city. So not only did it kill 6,000 in the city, another 6,000 in the surrounding county, 2,000 unaccounted for, and many all the way down to New Orleans. Basically, it ruined everything else as well, their industry. So
wow.
There's no wonder if there are any ghosts, if they're, stuck in that vortex of time, that they might be a little sad over what happened. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so you've talked about the legends, and we have about 5 minutes left. So
okay.
Have you seen ghosts on the tours? You told about one. Have you seen ghosts while you're doing the tours? And you could even skirt that if you want and talk about when you take people on the tours, and this would be the Ghost Tours of Galveston Island.com. Have you had participants actually see ghosts, photograph ghosts, anything like that?
Lots of them. The best way to find a ghost, period, anymore, especially if you want to save yourself some money, is just get a good old camera, just the best camera you can find, and snap pictures. We don't see ghosts with our eyes because spirits are on a different vibration, and basically the speed of the camera shutter lens up another vibration, and that is why the cameras get them when we don't. Now, I have really hundreds of pictures. Are you there, Rita?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I had an interruption there. I've had hundreds of pictures of literally hundreds. I don't have them all posted because I just simply have not had time to go through them all. But people each week will send me pictures either of ghosts or orbs or something from my tour. Now, you ask about me. I've had ghost experiences most of my life. But for years, I didn't really like it. You know what I mean? Being psychic or sensitive or whatever you want to call it can be a very pleasant thing, or it sometimes can be unnerving. I think you know this, right?
Oh, I just say it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it's sometimes so. So they're on Galveston Island. Yes, I've seen different things. I've seen spirits. I've seen spirits of little girls. I've seen soldiers. I've seen various things there. Sorry about the background noise here. Anyway, so there we go.
So, this is a question that I'm often asked, so I'm going to ask you it back.
Okay.
So, are you able to turn it off?
Yes. I don't. Again, I think anyone that's got any psychic ability, and I think most people actually have that ability, but most of them have not learned to tune into it or use it, because one big thing is because of religion that condemns that kind of thing. And I personally see psychic ability as something really inanimate. It's neither good nor bad. It's how you choose to use it. And I think psychic ability is to heal people. It's to heal and help others. It's not so you can necessarily get a TV show, you know what I mean? So
win lottery,
show, I guess,
stuff like that.
But that's not the
well,
reason
I think
for
people, I mean, this is totally off topic, but I think people that have had, like, near-death experiences or have had situations like that happen, you know, they just get popped open. And I think that some of those people have a much harder time shutting it down than someone who has just been naturally open their whole lives. Then it's kind of like you just handle it naturally. It's like, I don't want to look at that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to move it over there.
Well, when you don't know how to control it, it can be very unnerving. So, you know, I'm not a future, I don't tell the future. I simply am, I guess, clairaudient. Is that the right word? And I hear and I see. I don't always see them with my eyes, but I do see them with my spirit. And so, and I don't believe...
and that's your story, and you're sticking to it.
That's right.
So the music's going to be coming up here in a second. And so you do your tours. I mean, so if somebody's going to Galveston, which is in Texas, do you do your tours like on the weekends, daily, blah, 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 blah? Give yourself a little plug here.
Okay. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we do one tour a day at 7:30 p.m. We are adding days. We're adding times here and there. Also, stay tuned. Here's another subject. The Secret Society Cemetery Tour will be coming up next month. So anybody that's been waiting for that, that's going to be a brand new tour. So anybody that's been waiting for that, it's about to happen. Those tours at GalvestonIsland.com.
Thanks, Dash, for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I love having you. All right. We will talk to you again soon. Well, that was Dash Beardsley from GhostToursOfGalveston.com. So if you are in the Galveston area, you totally have to, like, check out the Ghost Tour because I bet it's spooky. And so next week, we have another, of course, cool show. Our topic is going to be, ancient civilizations. We have Frank Joseph talking about uncovering the Atlantean influence, and Stephen Myers talking about the lost technologies of the Great Pyramid. And so, until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. If you've enjoyed the show, mark it as a favorite, and be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio. Point your browser to www.justenergyradio.com for more show information and to contact Dr. Rita. Until next time, remember, it's all just energy.